Hello everybody, hope you're keeping well. Gary Fernon here, and today I'm going to be answering some of your questions. Okay, so one of the questions that I've had is, what are the best photography tips for beginners? Really, the only thing I can tell you if you're just starting out in photography is to just enjoy the process of taking photographs. Try not to become overwhelmed by the amount of technical babble that there is out there and available to you. While it is important to understand how your camera works and what each setting does, don't let that suck the enjoyment out of why you picked up the camera in the first place, be that to take photographs or in fact to use it to take videos. I'd also say take things at your own pace. You'll know when it's time to delve a little deeper. So if you see people using cameras that are by you perceived to be better than what you're currently using, you don't know how far along their photography or their videography journey that they are. So try not to get sucked into wanting to have all of the latest gear. Learn to use the kit that you have, and when you've exhausted that and you feel that the time is right, and you'll know when the time is right, when you feel that time is right, to then progress onto a newer or better piece of equipment, you yourself will know. But the single biggest tip that I can give you, especially as a beginner, and not just as a beginner actually, this stands true whether you're just starting out or you are an experienced creative. Just remember that photography, videography, the creative process in general, irrespective of what creative field that you're in, it is subjective. As long as you are enjoying what it is that you're doing, as long as you're happy with what you are producing, or certainly the developments that you're making throughout your creative journey, that is all that matters. Don't let anybody tell you that your work isn't good enough. That's their opinion, and it may well be what you're producing isn't the right fit for what they like. But that's not to say that what you're producing isn't good enough. It just means for that one person, that individual, it's not for them. It doesn't mean that it's not for you, and it doesn't mean that it's not for somebody else. So try not to get disheartened if somebody gives you a bad critique on a piece of work that you've created. Hopefully the criticism that you'll receive will be constructive, and it's what you do with that critique, that constructive criticism, that will make all of the difference. So that really would be my tips if you are just starting out on your photography journey. So another question that I've been asked is, how does ISO affect images in photography? So first and foremost, the effects of ISO will depend on your camera. For example, a full frame camera will allow you to push the boundaries of the ISO far greater than, say, a compact camera. So how does this affect a photo? Fundamentally, now this is a great tool when working in low light, as it enables you to keep your shutter open for longer periods at a time, but also helps you maintain your aperture level where you can still shoot handheld if you need to. Personally, if I was going to be shooting in low light conditions, if I was going to be shooting in low light conditions, I'd personally be looking to use a tripod. It would enable me to keep my ISO down, which means I reduce the amount of noise that will be introduced into the final image, but it also will enable me to, or by doing that, have my shutter open for longer periods of time. So half a second, 2 seconds, 3 seconds, that sort of thing. And I won't get camera shake. I won't get blur or camera blur. If there's anything moving in your scene, then yes, of course you'll get blur. But as I say, one of the things you need to be mindful of, especially when you're starting out in photography, you're going to be trying lots of different things. You're going to be testing the ability of your camera and yourself. So just bear in mind that the higher the ISO, the more noise, so the more grain that's going to be introduced into the final shot. Which is why I will always look to, if I'm going to be shooting low light, like I say, stick it on the tripod, ISO right down, so it gives me those nice, crisp final images. So the next question, what types of shots are best to learn photography on? Well, really this comes down to, firstly, identifying what type of photography you would like to shoot. When you are starting out, and I'm sure that everybody who picked the camera up for the first time have all experienced this, you will shoot anything and everything. When I first started out in photography, I thought I was going to be an architectural photographer. That was where, at that time, my passion for photography lied. I enjoyed being out on the street, looking at the construction of a building, the way that it was shaped, the way that it was constructed. That's where I thought my photography journey was going to take me. However, the route that I've ultimately ended up going down is more portraiture and product photography. So nothing to do with architectural photography at all. But one of the things that you'll have to explore, and one of the things that only you can discover, is what genre of photography are you going to be shooting. And you'll only know that by getting out there with the camera and just photographing, as I say, anything and everything. And from that, you will find your path and what you like to shoot most and what you get most fun out of shooting. And that's the important thing. It's what do you get the most fun from shooting? Because it has to be fun. Otherwise, it's just hard work. Once you've made that decision, once you've decided on the genre of photography that you're most passionate about, my answer to you, my tip for you, is just focus on that subject. You will only become a better photographer through practice and self-education. What kinds of things should be practiced each day when learning photography? One of the things that I always say is understand and learn how to use your camera. Learn each setting. You may not stick with certain settings, you may not use some of the settings at all, but don't ignore them. Give them a go, see what works best for you. Some people like to work in shutter priority, others aperture priority. Doesn't mean that you have to shoot in either of those modes. Pick one that you're most comfortable with. By understanding how your camera works, this will allow you to push the boundaries not only yourself but also of your camera, and it will enable you to become more creative. While a lot can be achieved in editing programs and editing software, by getting it as close to perfect, as spot on as you possibly can in camera, this is going to save you so much time in the long run. You do not want to be stuck behind or in front of a computer screen in post-processing. If you're like me, You get your joy from being out and about, camera in hand, taking photographs. I do not want to be spending all my time post-processing in order to make the image look the way that I want to. I'm going to get it as close to perfect as I possibly can in camera, which limits or reduces the amount of time that I spend in the editing suite. And by editing suite, I mean sat in front of my computer at a desk, because the quicker I can edit a photograph and get it done, it means the quicker I can get back to having my camera in hand and taking more photographs. If you have any other tips for people who are beginning their photography journey or their videography journey and they're just starting out with a camera, leave a comment below and share those thoughts, and let's help those people who are just starting out and just want to be better creatives. Folks, take care of yourselves, and remember, be creative, be inspired, but be you.